What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video, I'm going to be showcasing what I think are the 10 best exotic heavy weapons in Destiny. This is obviously purely from a PvE perspective, so I won't really be talking about how they function in PvP. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into it. At number 10, we have Xenophage. This is just like kind of a jack of all trades weapon. It shoots slugs that don't deal crit damage, but this makes it great on things that don't take crit damage, like Threshers in Lake of Shadows or the tanks in the first encounter of Deepstone Crypt. It is great for taking out adds quickly, and it sort of has explosive payload, so it does a bit of AoE damage. And it can also do decent boss damage. It doesn't do any one thing particularly well, but it performs many roles more than adequately. Like I said, it's a very versatile weapon and great to use in many situations. At number 9, we have Parasite. This is a burst DPS monster. If you need an enemy deleted right now, then use Parasite. It is the meta on Aatrax thanks to how quick the damage window is. It takes time to ramp up to Worm's Hunger times 20, but when you do, it's well worth it. The explosion takes out tons of adds in one shot, and it can melt most high health targets, so it's awesome in the right scenario. I don't have a whole lot to say about it really. It just deals a shit ton of damage in one shot. But then after that, it is pretty useless until you kill a bunch of enemies and get that high damage shot again. At number 8, we have Tractor Cannon. This weapon is pretty simple. It deals a 30% debuff to enemies. It also pushes them and deals an okay amount of damage on its own. But it's a utility weapon through and through. I put Divinity on the special list for the same reason. It's just so good at what it does and is also a staple in many raid teams. This one has a bit more practical uses than Div though, especially when solo. Like when I run Strand Titan, I will definitely use Tractor Cannon for my debuff while I go to town with my 1-2 punch melees. And I was the debuff guy in our contest mode Crota's End Clear. It is such a must use in so many situations that it would be irresponsible not to have it on the list. At number 7, we actually have Anarchy. At the time of me writing and recording this, GLs haven't quite got their buff yet with the March 5th patch update, so I can't test if it is getting the reserves buff. If it does, then that will be great, because Anarchy was hit with a reserve nerf ages ago as it was just too dominant. It also deals less damage to bosses now, because in its prime, it was great for just sticking on a boss and then hot swapping with double slug shotguns. And it can be good for boss damage if you want to do that, just not as meta as it once was. But anytime you can have damage over time in Destiny, it's a powerful thing. It lets you spawn kill enemies in doorways without having to be there, because you can just lay a trap down for them to walk into. You can stick a high health target like a champion and then deal with nearby adds. Then when the champ goes to shield, you can just break the shield. So it's really nice for that. You can hit a high health enemy with a shot or two and then hide behind cover while it ticks away on them, allowing you to play very safely. There's just so much utility with this gun that it would be a shame to leave it off the list. And if it does get that reserve buff, then it makes it all the better. Anarchy is still very, very good. It's just not the dominant force that it was for literal years. And that is good, because it's nice to have variety. Up next at number 6 is a favorite of mine, Sleeper Simulant. Sleeper is still a wonderful boss damage pick. I used it to solo flawless the Ghost of the Deep dungeon this season, and the first time I solo flawlessed it, and I also used it on Ear Ute thanks to Monochromatic Maestro last season. It was pumping out some crazy damage. What I love about it in Ghost of the Deep is it's really forgiving to hit crits with, and if you miss a crit, unlike most linear fusion rifles, it still does good damage with a body shot. So again, it's very forgiving. I love this weapon since it was reintroduced back in Warmind. I love the aesthetic, how it feels to shoot, everything. It's just a super solid weapon. Speaking of hard-hitting heavies, at number 5 is a really cool gun that I just love to shoot, and that is Legend of Icarus. When Bungie gave it Trench Barrel with its catalyst, it instantly became a boss melter. It hits extremely hard on any boss that you can get up close to, but obviously there is some risk in that. Therefore, you don't often see it in things like GMs, but in raids and dungeons, it's a beast on any boss you can get near. It also is getting a pseudo buff because Bungie is making it easier to proc Trench Barrel, as you can do it with ranged melees now, which is a really nice quality of life improvement. This weapon also just feels super tanky. I normally hate low handling weapons, but with Icarus, it just feels right thanks to the power that it packs. Next up at number 4 is Leviathan's Breath. And it is funny that it is number 4 on the list because this thing sucked for a long ass time, but Bungie gave it like 3 separate buffs, and it has intrinsic unstoppable. and now this thing hits like a truck. But the catalyst is what really sets it over the edge. The catalyst gives it a special form of Archer's Tempo, so now as long as you hit your crits, it's also a DPS monster. And it has really good ammo economy with the catalyst, giving it 15 arrows. People were able to one-phase Ear Ute on day 1 in the Crota's End raid with it. And not only does it have a lot of total damage because of its deep reserves, but when you pick up an ammo brick, you get a fair bit of ammo back, so it's also very ammo efficient. So it hits like a truck on single targets, has good DPS if you hit crits, deep ammo reserves for high total damage, basically everything you want in a heavy weapon. Number 3 for me is Galah Horn. You could honestly argue for it to be higher, but like Tractor Cannon, it is better in a team setting. On its own, I would rather have the next 2 remaining exotics with me in something like a GM. But in the right setting, Galah is a beast. It provides your team Wolfpack rounds, which improves the damage of their rockets immensely. This is the most powerful in a raid setting where you can have 6 people. But even in something like a GM, speedrunners will often run this with a Cenotaph Warlock to just obliterate everything and have constant heavy ammo. It has tracking built in, and the Wolfpack rounds give it great ad clear. And then your teammates can all fire off their rockets with Wolfpack rounds and basically just delete everything. It is a must run in any raid boss encounter for DPS. It is that good and that important. So again, for what it does, it's simply incredible. But on its own, it isn't quite as good as the next 2 in my opinion, though it's still pretty strong. So before we get to the top 2, I want to give some honorable mentions, and the only other 2 I think that are really deserving are 2 arc machine guns. Thunderlord is a favorite among LFGs for some reason, but I will admit, for its ease of use, Thunderlord is pretty great. It also has intrinsic overload, which is very nice and makes it great for mowing down overload champs. And it is also very good for ad clear because it's a machine gun. And the other one is Grand Overture. This thing is a burst DPS monster and has high total damage thanks to its deep reserves. So you would think I would love it, but it feels so fucking awful to shoot that I just really hate using it, even if it is pretty good. And its volley of rockets blinds targets, so it can also stun unstops. So I figured it at least deserves a shout out. So now back to the list. At number 2, we have one of my all-time favorites in the Lament. I run this thing in so much content. I used it to solo flawless the Duality dungeon, I use it in Gambit all the time, it's great for speedrunning solo Lost Sectors with, it was meta on Aatrax until Parasite came along, it has intrinsic anti-barrier making it great in GMs if you know how to play aggressively with a sword. Being a sword, it also has really good ammo economy. It also has a bit of a skill gap to maximize it for boss DPS, and it heals you as you deal damage with it. Really my only complaint is the crappy hit detection. It'd be nice if they could sort this out. If you're on PC, they do say that lowering your FPS will help with the hit detection, so that's something you can try. My day 1 raid team used a bunch of Laments to take down Crota on contest mode, and it worked beautifully. It is just a wonderful weapon in so many aspects. I love it so much. And that brings us to the number 1 heavy in all of Destiny, which I think is Dragon's Breath. If you've watched any solo GM speedruns, chances are the players were using Dragon's Breath. And I have spoken about this in another video, but can the Destiny community please stop judging things before we get them, or based on first impressions? I didn't like Wishkeeper when it came out, but did I say it was the worst weapon ever? No. I wanted to wait until all its traits were unlocked and then actually take it through the paces and high-end content, and when I did, I realized it's actually really good. The same thing happened with Dragon's Breath. People didn't know how to use it and said it sucked. People didn't even wait for the catalyst and they just wrote it off. And now, here it is, at the top of some arbitrary list that a relatively unknown YouTuber has made. So take that. But for real though, this weapon is fucking incredible. I've spoken in all my exotic ranking videos about how amazing damage over time weapons are, and Dragon's Breath is at the top of that list, because not only does it deal damage over time, which is something that makes Witherhoard, Anarchy, and Osteostriga some of the best weapons in the game, but this one scorches and causes ignitions while it does it. So you can shoot a rocket and take out a ton of ads and cause ignitions and stuff, all while you plink away on other targets with your other weapons. It is also super good for total boss damage, making it a meta pick on the second boss of Warlord's Ruin thanks to the nature of that fight, since it's such a long DPS phase. I can't stress how amazing this weapon is, and it's laughable that people wrote it off so early. It genuinely could be the best weapon in Destiny right now. And that's not even thanks to it being a solar season and us having overload rockets. It's just that good. So for a quick recap, we had Xenophage at number 10, Parasite at number 9, Tractor Cannon at number 8, Anarchy at number 7, Sleeper Simulant at number 6, Legend of Icarus at number 5, Leviathan's Breath at number 4, Galah Horn at number 3, The Lament at number 2, and Dragon's Breath at number 1. Let me know down below what you think of the list. I think I did a decent job capturing why these exotics are so good in Destiny 2. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you're still watching, then thanks so much for watching to the end. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Once again, thanks for watching, and take care.